Hey there, good evening. Welcome to Prog Monster. My name is Murph and I am the host of this show, a show that's dedicated to progressive rock, hard rock, heavy metal, and other forms of rock music. Tonight it's Friday Night Live Experience, and we're looking at this album, Eloy Live. So basically about this album. Okay, so it came out and it was recorded while they were on tour in 1978. It was mixed at EMI Studio in Cologne, Germany. Okay, so Eloy is a German band which features Frank Bormann on vocals and guitars, Klaus-Peter Mantreuil on bass and vocals, Dieter Schmidtchen on all keyboards, and Jürgen Rosenthal on drums, percussion, and he does the voice. There's a lot of voice in this. If you listen to the album, there's a lot of narration on various songs, and I believe it's, when they say voice, I believe that's what they're talking about, is he does that. Okay, it's an 8-track album, not an 8-track. It's 8 tracks on this album. It's a CD, of course, as you see. Sorry, I'm eating cucumber. I shouldn't be, but I'm going to eat because I'm trying to finish my supper and get this done at the same time. So what we have, okay, so there you go. That's the inside and the back side of the cover. First inside page. Basically more. It's written in German, so. And here we go. Frank Bormann, Eloy Live, different views of him and the other members of the band. This is the disc track color. I find with Eloy, their albums are very colorful. Their covers, their back of their album, and even the CD inside. Very colorful albums. The two things about Eloy I like. Sorry, I'm done now. Okay, so the two things about Eloy I like is their sound is consistent from album to album. There's not this wide range of music. They're very similar on all their albums. It's good stuff. It is. But it's melodic. It's droning. It tends to be very similar in a lot of ways. Even their live stuff, which is very good, is the same. And if you don't like that, if you want variety and stuff like that, if you want like lots of different sounds and different songs and the albums differ from album to album, you're not going to find that with this group, at least not from my experience. So anyways, the live album is a pretty good one. The instrumentation is very good, especially the guitar. I think the guitar and the keyboards are very dominating on the album. Like, there's a lot of keyboards, and a lot of these keyboards are Hammond keyboards. There's a lot of synthesizer parts on the album. The drums are pretty solid, but they tend to be more backgroundish, and so is the bass. Although they do have little forward bits and little bits that they do here and there, but for the most part, it's a guitar and keyboard dominated group, I believe. That's my own opinion. And maybe other people hear things that I don't hear, but I have only been listening to Eloy for about a year, so I don't consider myself an expert in them. The one thing about Eloy that I don't really like is I don't really like Frank Bormann's vocals. I think they're hard to understand, and they sound, every time I hear him, I think of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Unfortunately, that's not a good image to have. This album is actually worse than the studio albums because it's live. They can't edit it, and they can't do anything with it. And I find it's even worse on this album than it is on the other albums. However, I would say that Eloy is one of the bands that I listen to, not so much for the vocals, but for the instrumental. I like their instrumental part very much. Okay, so the first track on this album is Poseidon Creation. Got good drums on it, lots of keyboards, like I said, heavy guitar riffing and soloing, and there's a heavy bass Hammond organ part that goes throughout the song. Really, I think this, I just recently bought a new CD player, and it's a Sony, and I just need to get some headphones for it, but I suspect that this will be one of the albums this will be one of the groups that will get quite a bit of headphone play. The next song is Incarnation of Logos. It's a milder song. It's not as heavy as the first track. The vocals aren't great on this song, though, I have to say. The voice is a little bit different. So, and the keyboards are pretty dominant as well for both the background and the soloing. The heavy drum, bass, guitar riffing on this whole song too, even though it's a little bit milder, but there's a lot of that in it. The next song out is the Sun Song. He does a little part at the beginning where he's talking to the audience in German, because these were all this tour was in Germany, in the Cologne area, I think, during 1978, so he spoke quite a bit of German. I don't have a problem with it. I don't mind the German language. I actually understand some of it. Goes back to my Peter Gabriel Security album, which I had in German, and I kind of listened to it a lot and got kind of used to the sound. The Dance of Doubt and Fear is the fourth track. Some good guitar soloing on this particular track. Pretty solid. I'm not familiar with these songs that are on this live, because they came out prior to any of the studio albums that I have. So most of the studio albums I have are a little bit later than this, so the tracks that I'm used to listening to aren't on this album. Mutiny, sorry, I was thinking of something else, is the next track. It's the fifth track on the album. It's pretty much dominated by keyboards throughout the whole track. But again, Dieter, I want to say this name, Schmidtchen, very good keyboardist. He plays a lot of synthesizers with his keyboards, and he likes the Hammond organ. Now, not like me, I'm not a huge fan of Hammond organ, but in this setting I don't mind it. The same with Yes and Eloy both have a lot of Hammond on their earlier albums, and I don't mind it because it fits in with the kind of setting of music that I like. The next track up is Gliding into the Light of Knowledge. It's a much grander scale and scope with the keyboards and the drums and the bass on this as well. Like it's a much broader song, but it still falls well within the standard kind of Eloy sound. And all their songs kind of have that standard kind of sound. This is just a bigger song than a lot of the other ones. The next track is Inside. It's a pretty heavy track. Lots of really good guitar soloing on this track. Maybe of all the tracks on the album, I would think this one stands out with the best guitar soloing by Frank, who I think is a pretty solid guitar player. I quite like him. I think his style is different than what I'm used to, but I still like it quite a bit. And the last track on the album, Atlantis Agony. Okay, let's see if I can get this right. Atlantis Agony of June the 5th, 8498, 13 p.m. You tell me. I don't know what any of that means. I suspect that because Eloy is kind of futuristic and spacey in their music, that this is a science fiction song, of course. It's an epic scope musically. Sorry, the other part of the song I missed was it was also Gregorian Earth time. So yeah, so it's it's a spacey song, and it's a futuristic science fiction song. I mean, their whole concept comes from Eloy, which comes from Time Machine, and so they're bound to be like this. This particular song is epic in scope. It's very long. It's the longest track, over 20 minutes of it. Lots of keyboards, lots of drums, lots of bass, lots of guitar, and it's epic in its proportion, like all of them going. It's a good song. I like it quite a bit. It's not like Supper's Ready or 2112 or Close to the Edge. It doesn't have that kind of feel to it. I've always found Eloy to have a bit of a Pink Floyd feel to them. Some of their albums are more Pink Floyd-ish than others, but I definitely hear some Floyd in this. But having listened to them now for over a year, I don't hear the Floyd as much, maybe because I'm starting to hear their style more, and I think they're a very good band. I'm very surprised that they didn't make it as big over here. They did well in Europe, but I don't think they're considered on the grand scale of things. I don't think they're considered to be one of the great progressive rock bands of all time or anything like that. But then again, some people would say Rush doesn't make the group of six, which to me is insane, because I think Rush is the best progressive rock band that's ever existed. So for them not to be in the group of six is just, to me, insane. But anyways, there you have it. So Eloy live. The other thing about the Eloy live that I never touched on, but I'm going to touch on now, is that because they weren't such a huge band like Yes and Emerson, Lake and Palmer and Genesis and that, and even Rush, they didn't have the gigantic crowds that those groups used to have. So their live stuff stands out, is more dominating. Like, you can hear more of it because there's less crowd noise in it. It almost doesn't feel like a live album. It almost feels like a bit of a studio album. The only thing that makes me aware that it's a live album really is the occasional burst of cheers from the crowd, and Frank Borman's voice is just really kind of difficult to follow, even more so than on the studio albums. But at the whole, I like Frank because I think he's a great guitar player, and I'm sure that the people in Germany love his vocals, but I just find them hard to take sometimes, that's all. Anyways, overall, really good band. Lots of really good stuff here. If you want a good live album, and this is probably a good one for headphones as well. If you really want a good live one, this is not a bad one to choose. It's almost like Nepworth was with Pink Floyd a few weeks ago that I did. Same kind of feeling, but I think the Nebworth was probably would be more familiar with people because of the music of Pink Floyd is bigger over here and more familiar to people. But other than that, I think there's some grand scale on both of the albums. These guys may be a little bit better instrumentally than Pink Floyd is overall, because there's 4 of them here and they're all pretty solid. But anyways, I'm digressing into offshoot stuff. But anyways, I hope you like this video, and if you do, please like and subscribe. Any subscriptions help me, moves me along and helps me get more into it, and motivates me better too. So anyways, I hope you have a good evening and enjoy the video, and we'll see you again soon on Prog Monster. So have a good night. Bye.